Welcome to Discover Indie Film. Oh shit, I didn't. Okay.
That's the whole podcast right
there. And Karina, my podcast producer, Karina Wolf. You can leave that in if you want. I'm going to try again, but I'm going to try your last name again. Did you know that was what I was doing?
Oh, okay, got it.
All right. My guest today is Paulo. I got to trill my R's. Araujo.
Yeah.
Close?
Yeah.
Not bad?
Araujo.
Araujo.
Yeah, so Ju is a very Portuguese, like... So my friends would make fun of me because, like, they grew up, like, coming to my house and stuff, and they'd be like, yeah, when you talk with your parents, like, it's just, that's all they hear because they don't speak Portuguese. But, yeah, so Araujo. Yeah. You're there. You're almost
Araujo.
there. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I always... when I was in college, David Byrne of Talking Heads, who I always loved, he married a Brazilian woman and started putting out Brazilian records, but records where he would just compile the best from Brazil to bring to us because we needed someone to do that for us because there was no internet or anything.
Yeah.
There was no internet when I was in college. It didn't exist.
Get out of here.
So, and I got into it, and like there would be these amazing songs from Brazil, and like the chorus was Joga Bola, Joga Bola, Joga Bola, Jogador. And it sounded so great. And I would turn to my friends and I'd be like, you realize that's just like play ball, ball player. Yeah. I'm like, in English it would sound stupid. In Brazilian it sounds beautiful.
It's so funny you say that. When I was in high school and like my friend would play guitar and like I'd be freestyling or whatever, I would do it in Portuguese. So I'd say something like, a cadeira tá lá fora e o sol tá batendo nela. Like, that sounded nice what I just said, right? I said the chair's outside and the sun's hitting it. Like I just said some random crap. And so I would tell you, they would just die laughing because they don't know what I'm saying, but it sounds good, yeah.
It would be great.
Yeah.
French is the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Language is amazing. All right. So this podcast is off the rails. We're about to get it back on the rails because this is, if you want to learn all about Paulo and his film Accidental Artist. It was an official selection at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival in 2023. It took home the Filmmakers Award for Outstanding Short Film Documentary, also Outstanding Creativity in a Documentary. I love that we have the Creativity Award.
Like that.
We just brought it in that year. And so go to the clickable links.
Yeah, go listen to that.
Yeah. And, listen to the interview. You're going to hear all about us. And then because...
we said some really brilliant stuff, Jeff.
We're really interesting
insightful
people. Yeah. And as human beings who witnessed an election 2 days ago at the time of recording, we even spent the last half hour sharing our incredibly insightful political views. So there you go. Yeah. This podcast is not about Paulo and his work. It's not about politics, not about anything but films. It's a Discover Indie Film 4 questions episode, which means Paulo will answer. Name 3 favorite films, name an underrated film, name an overrated film, and name a lesser-known film for people to seek out. And I see why you did well in life because you came prepared. You've got your notes.
I got some notes here. Yeah, I didn't want to blank, so I got that a primer before the podcast. So I was like, I'm going to write them down so I don't forget.
Excellent. Feel free. And by the way, it's very intentional. It's not name the 3 best films ever made. It's 3 favorites. So they could be what you consider the 3 best, or it could just be whatever.
Yeah.
Any way you want to answer it.
So start with the favorites?
Yeah, do your favorites.
Okay, so when I thought about this, I was thinking like movies that like I can just like rewatch. I think rewatchability really is a testament to a good film. So in no particular order, The Master by Paul Thomas Anderson, Shawshank Redemption, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Those are all 3 films that I feel like I could watch at any point, and I feel like I could always kind of take something different away, and it's just... The acting in them is also good, and those would be my 3.
3 wonderful films, and I mean, I think my favorite of the 3 is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Because for the creativity in it.
Yeah, it's got a lot going on.
It's just so groundbreaking in so many ways.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why it's like I just decided to put it on there because it was groundbreaking. The acting was great. It's just Jim Carrey in a role you've never seen before. I think there was a little behind the scenes where I think the director of that film or the writer had seen Jim Carrey, I think, like a year and a half before this film was even made, or maybe even before they offered it to him. And at that point in Jim Carrey's life, apparently he'd like, I don't know, he'd gone through a divorce. Something was going on with him where he was like very down in the dumps or whatever. And so this guy saw him and he was like, gosh, you just look so beautiful in your brokenness or whatever. He's like, can you just hang on to that for like a year? I'm going to make a movie. Just don't get happy. Like, don't, like, we went. And so you see this, like, this character that he's never played before in a movie that's like you've never seen before. So it's a very unique experience the first time I watched it. And again, it's one of those movies that I could watch again and just, go along for the ride again.
And I often say this when this movie comes up. I think it might be the most romantic film ever made in a lot of ways, because it really says that love can even conquer a scientific procedure that removes your memory of that loved one.
And just think about how...
Like, what does that say about love?
I know. It'll still find you. Like, it still found him. And just, like... Because he wanted to delete her because it was... this is funny, I just brought up...
The breakup was too painful, right?
The breakup was too painful.
Yeah.
It's just how much it can affect you that he's like... There's something poetic about, too. It's like, get in my mind and delete every memory I've ever had of her. That almost sounds like a song. Like, it would be, so there's a very... Yeah, you're right. There's a very poetic through line going through that film.
I see it as a very powerful film about love.
Yeah.
But it's about a lot of things.
And what's her face? That was also around the time when
Kate Winslet?
The dreamy... someone actually made it a caricature or an archetype, which was like the dream pixie girl or whatever. You ever heard that before?
Yeah.
But she's like the best one of that. The worst one of that, or the most annoying one, is Natalie Portman in Garden State. That's the one. It's like, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to do this, and no one's ever done it.
But again, that's the writer-director's fault.
Yeah, the Zach Braff.
Yeah, it's Braff's fault.
When I was in high school, I was like, I was all over that film.
I know people love that film.
For me, it's
a
very nostalgic film for me because I was like in high school when I first watched it, and there were some things I could relate to, whatever. But going back to Eternal Sunshine, Natalie Portman's the best version, I think, of that like kind of archetype. She carries a lot of that film. So, yeah,
she's amazing in it. He's amazing. It's an amazing film.
Yeah,
it's a brilliant film. And Shawshank. Forget about it. I mean, Shawshank is...
Yeah, I know. I was like, it's such a cliche at this point, but it's, there's reasons why things are cliche, and it's because that movie actually, out of the three, to me, is the most rewatchable. That one, I just don't know what... The DNA of that film is just different than any other one. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like you're watching it for the first time every time you watch it. Like... I don't know what it is. There's like a magic dust that's over that film. It's pretty basic on its face, but it's just the way they executed that film. It's just, and someone was saying this too. It's like, Hollywood got more nihilistic, I think, as time like went on. Like, people kind of say now, it's like you don't really see movies as much about hope and conquering and just and that movie's all about that. And it's I mean, that image of him out there like with his hands up in the rain. And it's like the camera like pulls back, and it's like like, holy crap, you know what I mean? That's yeah. So
it's great, and let's just give a nod. I'm going to give you a nod for mentioning The Master too, because I'm about to couch a statement in I haven't seen Licorice Pizza yet. So when I say Paul Thomas Anderson hasn't made a bad film, I haven't seen that one either. I haven't seen that one. But The Master is a very cool one to pull out of his library because I think all his films are great. But that one's fascinating. It's like,
I think that the two of him is that or There Will Be Blood. But the reason why I think I like The Master more is because there's just the There Will Be Blood is so singularly Daniel Day-Lewis and such a towering performance, which it is. But The Master's more interesting to me because you've got my favorite actor of all time is Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, that's the other thing. And they're both at the top of their game. Like, they're so good. The cinematography is so good. Like, it's just everyone operating at a very high level. And again, it's just a movie that when I first it just hit me in a way that another movie like hadn't. There's something a little offbeat about it. I know a lot of people didn't like that movie, but that is it's a very solid film all around.
I'm going to add one last thing, which is it's a courageous movie because it takes some balls to take on L. Ron Hubbard and the Church of Scientology.
Yeah,
and he does. Mm-hmm. It is full on taking that shit on.
Yeah, and it's just again like if anyone's interested in acting and stuff, I mean that is a master class in acting. That scene where they're like they do what's it called the thing they do with the Scientology
the
where
cans,
they're doing it, and he he keeps repeating it, and you just see Joaquin's Phoenix face just distort and change, and like he's such a like animalistic. It's a freaking brilliant movie, especially when it comes to the acting department. So
it's a great movie.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. All right, question number 2 is a film that you feel is underrated.
Underrated. Okay, the movie I think is underrated is Flight with Denzel Washington. The reason why I say that is because that movie kind of came and went. I remember when I saw the trailer and you see that the plane is flying upside down. And everyone's like, what the hell? This movie's stupid. Plane flying upside down. I honestly think they made a mistake by putting that in there because that's really the only thing that's a little bit like, okay. Everything else, I think it's one of Denzel Washington's best performances. I mean, top 3 because he's so freaking good. It's so realistic. He's playing a character he doesn't usually play, which is sort of like just an alcoholic piece of crap. I don't know if I could, but. And the thing that I really like about that film is that they say that a good screenplay is like one scene leads to the other, and there's a scene where he's basically when he's in that apartment or he's in the hotel and the next day he's got this big trial that he's got to do, and then there's just that door that separates the two hotel rooms that like just happens to be unlocked. He opens it. There's a mini fridge in there, and also his hotel they took all the booze out because there's the whole reason why he's in trouble. He opens up the thing, he sees it full. And the filmmakers made it look like the craziest mini fridge. It looks like a little liquor store in there. And you're like, oh shit. And it's like this is about an hour and a half into this film. Everything has come up to this moment. This is literally the crescendoing moment. He takes out a little nip. He puts it on top of the refrigerator, and everyone's rooting, don't do it. He leaves, and I think one of the best shots one of the all-time shots is it's just a close-up of the nip, and then his hand in slow motion swiping it, and then it cuts to the next day. So you're like, holy crap. You don't even see him drinking. So I just think like, it's that whole film went right to that moment because if you watch the film, then after that, he's drunk, and then it leads to a whole bunch of things, and like his character, whatever. So not to give too much away, but yeah, I think it's a very underrated film. People don't really, when they bring up Denzel Washington, it's Training Day, it's Malcolm X and all that stuff, but Flight to me is one of his best films. Underrated.
I haven't seen it.
Watch it.
Okay.
I feel like I just spoiled. That's why.
I don't think so.
Okay. But watch that movie. It's really good.
So. I only watched 9. I was about to make a joke about. I'm sure they don't show that film on planes. Yeah. All right. Here's a fun one. Question number 3 is a film you consider overrated.
Overrated. Oppenheimer. I think Oppenheimer's overrated. I think that was the most gassed up film of the last 15 years. I love Christopher Nolan. He needs his brother back in the writing room. Chris, if you're listening to this, your best film, Memento, who wrote that? Your brother. Like Inception, who was there? Your brother. When he's by himself on the helm of the script, it suffers. What I was amazed by Oppenheimer was the amount of dialogue that was boring, and also he's not Quentin Tarantino. That's what I don't understand. Christopher Nolan's the visual guy, and here he is. Dialogue, and the bomb goes off halfway through the film, and then it's a court thing for the rest of it. I'm like, I don't know, I just didn't get it. Like I could obviously, cinema, great. Like there's a big movie, like all that stuff is great, but I was bored, and I didn't think it was. What really did, if there was not so much hype, I don't think I would say it was. It was just I couldn't. And then after it came out. Oh my God, the best thing since sliced bread. I'm like, God, did we watch the same movie? I've never had an experience where I was so like, this wasn't that great, and everyone else was, this is amazing. That's why I say overrated.
Fair enough.
I feel kind of strong about Oppenheimer, if you can't tell, because I just...
No, I get it. I get it. And it was, it cleaned up.
Yeah.
And for sure. I actually did love it, but I admit that the not that I need to explain why I loved it, but I did see it in the best theater in LA. And so it was technically cinema porn, just for the... Oh. I use the word porn to mean like just so, like you can't look... Like I saw it at the TV Academy Theater, which is the best screen, the best seat, like everything about the best sound.
Yeah.
So they actually have a contract with Dolby that Dolby has to keep updating the projector to make sure it's always state of the art.
Yeah.
So at least that's what my friend who's a member of the TV Academy told me. So that's who invites me. So I don't get to go myself. But anyway, so I almost love everything I see in that theater. So
I'm sure.
I bet if I watch Oppenheimer on my TV, I might get bored.
Yeah.
But yeah,
because it's an experience. I mean, that's what's cool about Christopher Nolan. Like he makes these like experience films, which is like cool. You don't see that too often. So, I will sing his. We need guys like that making film 100%. He's an important director, but I just think like he's made better films. I think that the film was too long. I thought it was just kind of boring, and it was just the hype. Really, just I didn't understand it. So.
For sure. Yeah. All right. And the last question is a lesser known film for people to seek out.
Okay, so this is, it's hard to tell because I don't know how many people know about this film. It's pretty mainstream, but the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio film. It came out on Netflix like 2 years ago.
Yeah, see, I missed that, and I love him.
It is amazing. It's so freaking good. And you know what? It's not a coincidence that who also released a Pinocchio film in 2022? Disney. Disney was like, not on our watch, not with our thing. And I haven't seen I've seen trailers of this Pinocchio one. It's so inferior. But anyways, that's besides the point. But I just think because they were probably a little like nervous because they're like, oh, Guillermo's going to bring it. And he did. It's stop motion. The story's way different than, it's more towards the original. And the original is way darker, way like, it talks about just like death. And like, because Pinocchio, when he dies, he goes to this like kind of other world, and she's like, every time you die, you have to stay here a little bit longer. And there's this, I don't want to ruin it, but there's the end scene is, I was almost in tears watching this film because like that plays out in such a dramatic way at the end of the film, when it has to do with the whale and everything like that. So, I've been singing its praises ever since. And I just, unfortunately, not a lot of people have seen it because it came out in 2022. It was like COVID. I don't know what it was, but it's like a lot of people just haven't seen it. So that's one I would definitely say seek out. It's amazing.
And with Netflix originals, it really is, it's a slave to the algorithm.
Yeah.
So if if the movie catches steam, all of a sudden, when I open Netflix, it'll be, hey, watch this.
Yeah.
Like, and then word of mouth can start, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, word of mouth didn't maybe I'm not even remembering when it came out. Because when Netflix releases something, like how do we find out? Like I'm not plugged in. I'm not watching vloggers.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like if you have a film on Netflix, it'll get its shine for about 3 days where it's like new on Netflix, top 10 on Netflix. And because they want to push their new stuff, it'll be there for a few days, gone.
Yeah, and because they spend whatever $2 billion a year on content, because they call it content.
So now they've got more stuff coming.
They're like, oh, this one's not hitting. We'll try something else.
Gone.
They just keep trying because all they care about is gluing us to them.
I just know for a fact that if that movie came out in 2008, I don't know, just before all this stuff, it would have been a smash hit.
Right. If it was theatrical,
smash hit,
global release,
people would have really
story everyone knows, but everyone wants.
It's perfect. It's like it's the guy that's the monster guy that's the kind of darker kind of dude, Guillermo del Toro, making a Pinocchio film, stop motion. Man, that's check, and then.
Well, and everyone knows all fairy tales were meant to be dark.
Yeah, I know Disney's the one that comes in and but. Yeah. So yeah, they're all kind of.
I make people really angry with my anti-Disneyism, but I don't think there's any value to the Disney catalog pre-Pixar. I would separate Pixar, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they gobbled that up.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, I haven't even,
yeah.
I haven't seen Dumbo and Bambi and shit like that. I don't know. It's not for me.
Yeah.
But I understand that they're quite successful. They don't need Jeff Howard to succeed.
Need Jeff, I know. I wish they did because then maybe they changed their tune.
Forward. They can move forward with their lives. They don't I say the same thing about Tom Cruise. He really doesn't need me to go to his movies. Like, not a fan, and he doesn't need me to be a fan. He's got his fans.
Would you be mad if you were like, what's your top 3 movies? And I was like, Mission Impossible 1, 2, and 3.
I wouldn't be mad. I'd be like, right on.
Right.
But I'd be like, odd choice for a guy who makes some interesting films.
I know, right? It's underrated. Born on the 4th of July, like it's all Tom Cruise stuff.
Every once in a while, he does something cool.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Although it's funny, Born on the. I'm not sure I enjoyed that one too much.
Yeah, I think his what's
Magnolia,
and then I guess Magnolia. I was going to say Collateral too. He's pretty damn good, but he's the thing with Tom Cruise is he's actually I think a pretty damn good actor. It's just he just chose to be an action star, and that kind of waters down what
He did. In fact, one could write a fun paper if one was in a film studies program about Paul Thomas Anderson and how Tom Cruise and Adam Sandler both toyed with being real actors for a minute by working with a guy like PTA. Mm-hmm. And they were amazingly good.
Yeah.
And then afterwards they went right back to the genre that pays for the lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like they both could have stayed in that world of proving that they were great,
actors.
that they can do way more than people give them credit.
Yeah, Tom Cruise really can do a lot more. I think there's a lot. I mean, that guy, he is the ultimate movie star. I think he's had a really. I actually talking about planes. I actually watched a whole documentary on Tom Cruise's career on a plane, and I was kind of amazed that he's really the only actor that's really been able to be the big box office movie star action guy that every man wants to be, but then also have movies that are artistic and have artistic worth and whatever, and and just do it on the highest level.
He's done some balance, yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I recall my last statement is going to be that I saw a Rob Lowe interview, and of course they were on Outsiders together, which was when Tom had the smallest role, and he's like, you could tell he was going to be the one because he was so dialed in, and he was so devoted to it, and he was the one who paid way more attention to what was going on the set. He was like, this kid was so driven that nobody was surprised when he became the biggest star in the world.
He's a filmmaker. You could say Tom Cruise is definitely a filmmaker. We were talking about before about when actors become directors, and a lot of time that doesn't work. That guy's a filmmaker. He's
as a producer.
A guy, maybe not maybe director, but a guy that oversees a project.
I respect the fact that he's never pretended to direct, and he's never pretended to write a script that someone else wrote for him. I'm sure he has his team, and they sit down and they're like, he started. Everyone's talking about trying to start their own James Bond, but you mentioned he's James Bond.
Yeah, he's the American James Bond.
Yeah, he paid for the rights of Mission Impossible and turned himself into, I don't know, they made 37 movies. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but it seems like it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
shout
out Tom Cruise.
So I threw a little shade his way.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't need to see Top Gun 2. I just didn't need to. Not for me. But I think some people went. So
I think a few people.
I think Tom was fine.
Yeah. Saw that small indie picture he did.
I don't know. I just... honestly, I think he needs a hug, and he needs a friend like me to help him through whatever he's going through. Because I feel like he's kind of thoroughly unhappy in a way. I don't know. The interviews make me feel bad for him.
He's just when you're that wired and focused, it's just you're white knuckling. I feel like a lot of times, and maybe he does. Maybe as he gets older, he'll relax a little more. It's like, Tom, you know what? Relax.
He can't relax.
Well, if you remember when he was really into Scientology, it was his maniacal laughing, and it's just he's just
jumping on couches.
Yeah, so just
It's tough. It's tough. And because he's the biggest star in the world, I devote mental energy towards both not wanting to see his films and feeling like he needs help.
Yeah.
And who am I? I'm nobody. I don't. He doesn't need me. He doesn't need my empathy.
Yeah.
I'm sure he could give two shits.
Yeah.
He shouldn't give a shit.
Well, you know what? He should, because if he loves films like he says he does, he should listen to this podcast because it's all about films and why we love them.
He should
get on this podcast,
and he should check out indie stuff that is made from the heart, the way it should be.
Nice. Right. I thought you were going to segue perfect. I thought, and you should check out, and then you're going to...
Oh, and say the indie channel? And subscribe, Tom. Yeah. Can Tom Cruise afford $5.99 a month?
I think so. I think he might be able to...
He could He could
buy them.
He could fund the whole for the catering budget.
Yeah.
It could be free to the public forever. We could just give it away for free. All right. I'm going to wrap us up because sadly I have to be somewhere at 2 p.m.
Yes.
So, and I'm sure everyone was glad to hear that fact. All right. There will be clickable links in the show notes for everything Paulo has done. You can see his documentaries. You can see all kinds of great stuff. Follow him on social media. As you know, he's a man of fine taste as well. Anyway, because you just heard his list. All right, so let me wrap it up. Like and subscribe to the Discover Indie Film podcast. Be kind, write reviews, do all that stuff. If you want to learn more about the podcast or the TV series born from it, go to discoverindiefilm.com. Social media, it's always at DIFwins. I mentioned a TV series that's on Amazon Prime Video. Just search for Discover Indie Film on there. 7 seasons. Watch them. It's good shit. Good short films. But if you want to see even more good short films, go to the Indie Channel. That's indiechannel.tv or the Indie Channel app on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, Android TV, your smartphone. Support indie film. It's actually a way for $5.99 a month or $59.99 a year. You are actually supporting independent filmmakers, like directly, without actually suffering. All right. I met Paulo at Sherman Oaks Film Festival because his film Accidental Artist screened there and won a couple awards. We hold that festival every December. You can learn more at ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at Sherman Oaks FF on social media. Its sister festival that we hold every June is Film Invasion Los Angeles. You can learn more if you go to filminvasionla.com, and it's at FilmInvasionLA on social media. By the way, you can submit capital that one with your alumni code. Just saying.
Yeah.
I won't say it out loud, but I could because no one's gonna write it down. But yeah, I'll tell you once we stop recording.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone's listening at this point. Hopefully they are.
At the end, I sometimes wonder. By the way, I'll give one funny moment. Hey Benji, no, there was a guy who was actually a fan of the podcast. Like he'd listen to every podcast, and then he was on when his film, and when I did the closing spiel, he actually went, "Oh my god, I get to see the closing spiel in person," and I was like. I just became very self-conscious.
Yeah, people are listening.
I assume everyone stops listening before I rattle off all the websites and social media handles.
So hello to whoever is still listening. Thank you.
If you're still listening, you deserve to know that you can send a private message on the Instagram at DIFwins, and I'll give you a free pass to the opening night gala of the Sherman Oaks Film Festival this year, which this is the first year we're having a gala instead of just a mixer at the bar because someone donated this huge, gorgeous space.
Oh, that's great.
So it's going to be a gala.
You know what? You should start being like, the after credits of like Marvel films. You should kind of tease it. It's like, listen, you don't know what's going to happen at the end. Jeff could say something crazy.
At the end. I know. I could tell a joke, but I don't have to.
Yeah.
I could tell a terrible joke.
Yeah.
All right. Paulo, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. It was great.
And thank you, everyone, for listening.